Hello, everybody. Welcome to Enlightened Uncensored Chats. Today, I have Dan Meirnez with me. And before I introduce this amazing person, I'm going to go into a couple of reminders as we move through. Number one is hello, everybody. If you are wanting to chat and comment, we love chats. We love the comments. We love for you to participate. We will answer those at the end so that this is a flow and the flow is divinely guided and everything flows instead of energies going different places. So please do comment, please enjoy, and then we'll get to the comments and chats at the end. So really excited to have you here. Today we're going into sparking a new way for the new year. So I'm not sure what this is going to bring in here. I'm excited because there's so much coming up right now. And I've had many, many conversations with Dan, and I'm about to introduce him. And our conversations have gone so many different ways, but very explorative. Did not say that right. And also, they've been very insightful and enlightening. So, really excited to have Dan. So, Dan is a master body work. So, he is in level 3 of the FST. He's a shamanic practitioner, level 4 with the Incan Peruvian tradition. And he is also a men's leadership coach and mentors men's circles. And he has been doing this, like his experience is 10 plus years in, the different modalities. So he has a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding, and so much amazingness. And I know because I know him, he's a friend of mine, and we have amazing, amazing conversations. So Dan, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything you want to say to everybody?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Lauren. I want to wish everybody a happy new year and welcome to the conversation today. I'm also excited to explore the unknown and going down the many rabbit holes we go on in our conversations. So excited to see what shows up today.
Yay. So Allie did send a little heart. Allie's excited. So yes, guys, we will look at the conversation at any of the comments at the end. And yeah, you ready to get started, Dan?
Let's dive in.
Okay. So we're starting with sparking a new way in this new year. What has come up for you so far? Or like if you kind of tune on what comes up?
Yeah, what comes up for me is a lot of things that come up for me this time of year, really. It's the interest of what's going to be happening this next year, what's going to be something new I bring in, I think the cycles of setting intentions or setting goals. How am I going to change? How am I going to grow? And I found myself getting a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest with you, this year. I think it was kind of this sense of um, like pressure and what if I don't fulfill the things I said I was going to do? Like last year, there's a couple things I didn't get done, and the judgments that come up, and just the awareness of like this excitement that ensues with wanting to pursue goals and ambitions, and then what if I fall short? And then the inner critic inside starts to eat at me and uh, you know take away from the experience of being excited and almost kind of bring me back into maybe a place of melancholy and being like, oh, okay, well, is it really worth pursuing these things? So it's experiencing some highs and lows, I would say. What about you?
That has been so. I just sent out an email and it talked about the next 4 months and the predictions of what's coming up the next 4 months. And
Mm.
January up till like mid February, what I feel is like this mix of emotions, this mix of like still a lot of releases.
Mm.
So it's like to me, it's like having like all kind of like swirling and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life type feeling. And with what you just said, it's interesting because you're like, okay, so, the things that you set in motion, last year and like the things that you want to accomplish, I'm wondering, and because I've been feeling this way too, is are we letting go of a lot of those goals? Like, I don't feel
Mm.
like I have any goals right now. I feel like it's like, what do I want to experience? And it's like, I'm experiencing it, but it's the
Yeah.
goals are just like not there. It's weird. I know. What comes up for you?
Yeah, with that, I start to think again, goals for me is something, externally outside myself to achieve, right? So a goal would be something that I can actually measure and create even a pathway to get to that point, right? So, for example, I want to go to the gym and get strong and put on whatever 5 pounds of muscle. Like there's ways that I can measure that and set a standard of how I build a schedule, how many days at the gym, how much I'm eating, and then I get to a result. When I think about sparking a new way of being, I think there's a huge fundamental difference of being versus doing. And now I've heard this many times on a human being versus a human doing. And I see the doing being that action for a goal. And where I start to work at the energetics of things, and even with my clients, we actually set intentions instead of goals when I work with them. And the intentions are actually energetic. Like how do I need to be in order to feel a certain way? Because I want to, my end goal for myself is I want to feel good, right? I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel whole. And I know how many of us, and with you too, it's like we set a goal, and even if we achieve it, great. Okay, what's next? Did that really fill my cup? Did that really get me excited? Does that make me feel like a better person? Does it fill my heart? Sometimes yes, but for how long is it sustainable? So I don't know. Are our goals sustainable?
It's interesting when you said it, like the whole it's the way of being. It's not so much doing so much. I think that's the same idea that's really coming in for me also. Um, so so it's almost like it's shifting from a goal because we want the results of that goal in a way of like we have to show ourselves that we're accomplishing something. It's more
Mhm.
so, steps to take that would feel good. And, we check on those steps and rework it as we need to as we're moving along. Um,
Mhm.
but it's more so, yeah, it's more so in the being. I'm not saying this correctly.
I think I follow, like, it sounds like you're following the energetics of it as well, right?
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
the beingness for me again is like if I were to look at somebody that inspires me, right? And if I look at their characteristics, do I really ultimately care, for me personally, if they're rich? They've got a mansion, they've got a helicopter on a yacht, beautiful things, right? I mean, it'd be cool, right, to have. I'm not going to deny that achieving that level would be really cool, and I'd have you over for a party, and we'd have a lot of fun. But I think there's also this level of somebody I'm truly inspired by. They've got a big heart. They've got a lot of empathy. They're compassionate. They're strong in their leadership because they care about others. They're selfless. So for me, like those are the characteristics that I strive for in my way of sparking a new way of being is how can I better myself to show up that way? Not
Mhm.
only for myself, but even in my community and for my friends and for the people that I'm serving. Because I feel like if I'm doing that, then I'm achieving a level of more of that spiritual mastery and that connectedness to of being the best human being I can be.
That's exactly it. So, like, for me, the goal idea is, and the reason why I was like, I think I just kind of let go of goals in
Mhm.
in that way of it's it's basically like, yes, there's action steps to take to get to where we want. Um, but it's that idea of why do we have the goals in the first place? So the
Mhm.
goals that I'm letting go of are things that I wanted because my brain said I wanted. I wanted because, exactly like the fill the cup part. Um, I mean, I want it because the brain says I want it, but now I want to fill that cup. Um,
Mhm.
so, so I'm adding that in, but there's something else. Okay, so what's been coming up a lot for me, I mean, I keep seeing a yacht, so I feel to bring this in,
Right.
um, is all those thoughts that I used to have on riches, on experiencing going getting on a yacht, on experiencing all of that. I used to be so like Like, no, I don't want that, because who does that show I am? So I was judging myself because whenever I was growing up, my dad had money until towards the end of his life, something happened. But my dad had money, my mom didn't. They were divorced. I kind of lived in both worlds. I saw both worlds of it. Um, and so I didn't really judge either side, like whether you have money, whether you don't have money. So my dad's side, for example, I judged because I felt like there's a lot of fake people around, a lot of fake people in the community that I was in, and I didn't want to be that. So I resisted that idea of having all this money, having nice clothes, or going on like whatever trips, or and living that life, because I associated it with fake. I did.
Mm.
Then I had my mom's side, which was, a little bit more like, my mom, doesn't really have that much money. She's living paycheck by paycheck. She's has that struggle with money and that major lack. My dad, before before he passed away, like some years before, he didn't
Mm.
have, like, he wasn't worried. He would dish money out, but he knew it always came. So I saw both. And what's happening right now in coming into this new year, more recently, I got this message of, I just want to live life lavishly. And I was like, why? Because, like, whenever I go on vacations, I don't need everything. I don't really care for everything. I want to do the
Mm-hmm.
fun stuff, but I would skip out on tours or anything like that because it costs money. But what's been happening for me more so was, 'cause I'm starting to go on my dad's side because of abundance,
Mm-hmm.
where it's more so I stopped thinking of money as inhibitory. I stopped thinking that the people who have money are fake, or trying to fill their voids with money, with things. I let go of all of that. And now it's like, I can't say it's goals. I'm kind of reverting back to what we are talking about. I can't say it's necessarily goals, but one
Mm-hmm.
thing about it is living life lavishly, but having a balance, right? Not doing it just because my head wants it, not doing it as an escape, doing it because
Mm-hmm.
my heart wants to experience that. So that's kind of what's happening for me, and I can go further, but I'm going to stop. What do you feel with that? What's coming up for you?
Well, when I hear that, I'm really glad you brought that up because when you say living lavishly, how you define it is for you, right? So for you, lavish could be having, X amount of income per year, having a house, having the ability to travel, go on those special tours if you want to spend the extra money, and be able to do those things you enjoy and living in that abundance, right? Where living lavishly for somebody else could mean it could be the mansion, it could be the yacht with the helicopter on it, all those things that are very, broad on that spectrum of, having a lot of money and wealth. And what an interesting experience I would imagine for you to have that polarization, like your dad's side and your mom's side. And not only do I'd say, like, I've experienced different polarizations of that experience in my life too. It's either you know my judgments or criticisms of rich people, like, oh, rich people think they're better than other people, and they don't care, they're just takers. And then the other, opposite spectrum for me is the lack, and sometimes lack is just not having enough money to travel or to, like, barely pay rent and just struggling along. And then there's, I'd see there's levels in between, right? And some of that can come from society and movies and culture, and I think some of that can come from family and what we grew up with and what we see. And I think what I see for myself is, at what point do I stop and become conscious and I say, like, what am I choosing for myself? you know
So,
what is abundance for me? What does living lavishly mean for me? That might be different from you, and it will be different from you, because when I'm also coming from a place of non-ego attachment as well, saying that in order for me to feel like I'm a success, and a lot of times the success is what I care about, what other people think, right? Like, oh, Lauren's going to think I'm cooler because I have a dope car, or I dress a certain way. And I think, I wonder how many of us tend to think, oh, in order for me to feel secure and feel accepted by others, I need to look a certain way, right? And so, and if I'm not, making the money that I want to make either, and this has happened to me in the past where I'll load up credit cards and I'll overspend when I'm even making because I want to live a certain lifestyle and appease other people. And then inside I'm suffering because I'm like, man, I'm going to pay this credit card debt. How am I going to get out of this hole? And I'm not happy and not fulfilled, and yet I have all these things. So I think it is coming back to square one, and I think getting back to really the theme of the conversation is like, when I'm thinking about sparking a new way of being, it's like, am I wholesaling myself? Am I giving myself up to giving away my energy, going into debts, wholesaling myself for other people's acceptance? Or am I, the new way of being for me is where I've been living in, I think even this last year has been a big practice of creating healthy boundaries for myself, and asking myself, why am I doing this? Like, what is my intention truly for doing this? For, um, serving a certain way, or to going and buying this thing. And it gets tough. I fail a lot. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not perfect. I'll go out and buy the new toy and be like, shit, did I really need to buy that? But it makes me feel good in the moment. And sometimes it's serving. And I think that's where not to get, I think, caught up in maybe the convolution of even being spiritual, where like, oh, being spiritual, I need to be very humble and make just enough money because I don't want to make too much, but I don't want to make, too little either. So it's, to me, it's been like living in that survival where, one thing I'm calling in this year and more is that thriving, right? So thriving in abundance and living lavishly, I think, is kind of the thing I see it stirring up between us right now. And what that means, how do we define that for ourselves?
Exactly. When you were talking about the goals, and like, okay, what do we want this year? That has been driven by a lot of times money. And it's been driven by money because we think we need money for all of those reasons you said. Impress other people. It could be, money to put a band-aid on something you don't want to look at. So you're just trying to keep buy yourself happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're letting go with goals, and I think this is why I was like, I'm throwing goals out, is because my perception of goals in the past was that. My
Yep.
perception of goals now has nothing to do with money. Money exists and it doesn't exist anymore for me. It has no charge. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good. It's not bad. I don't care if I have it. I don't care if I have a lot of it. Like, as in, not, I don't care in like a, negative way. I just like, it's there and I know it flows. It's abundant. So the whole thing that you said with like like the people, spiritual people being humble,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening there is when we don't get something that our heart desires, that's not humble. That is suppressing. That's what we're learning, not suppress,
Mm-hmm.
suppressing our hearts, our soul's desires.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're actually creating more lack. And I think this
Yeah.
is a huge thing. And I don't know how this came into the spiritual world of having like humble means, well, I guess there's like monks and like all of that, which lets go of worldly possessions. And I understand that.
Right.
Um,
And that's a whole culture in itself, right?
yeah,
And a whole like spiritual path. So that's hard to compare to the Western ideals where we
right.
live. Yeah.
But we can have both because
Mm-hmm.
their letting go and detaching from worldly possessions is also in the physical. They're letting go physically of those worldly possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Many spiritual people have that time where we detach from possession. So we learn it in a different way. Then, when
Mm-hmm.
the possessions come back and we start to live lavishly, then we can actually, we're not attached to whatever comes. It's
Yeah.
pure abundance, and we let go of whatever we don't need. So it's not like we're hogging, and we're
Mm-hmm.
allowing that flow. We're actually giving because things that we don't need anymore, we're letting it go. There's no attachments anymore. This is where we're getting to. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more of this, it's not about being humble anymore and not receiving. It's about allowing that flow, taking in and accepting the lavish, whatever that means to you on a heart basis,
Yeah.
accepting that. And then when it's time to let it go, offer it to other people, whatever it is. That's
Yeah.
flow, that's abundance, and that is what's happening.
I love that. And one thing that was coming up for me when you're sharing that is the other H word that I think sometimes can be confused. And one is the, being humble, right? So the other word I was thinking about was humility, right? So there's a level of humility that for me is, I know I have the ability to do this, right? But am I choosing this out of a place from my heart that is really going to be something that is in alignment with who I am, or am I choosing it for my head and my ego, which is more about the need for acceptance, or coming from a place of lack. And so when I think of also the word humility, I think about like power, and the good quote from the good old Marvel films, because I'm a big Marvel nerd, is from Spider-Man. It's, with great power comes great responsibility, and for me, that's the definition of humility, right? So, and I think living in the West and living in this ideal world where we have so much at our fingertips, and we have the ability for 2-day shipping from Amazon, and we can talk to somebody halfway around the world on, through Zoom, and it's everything is in real time, and it like literally can manifest this and through technology. And I just wonder how much that can also be abused, right? Where it can either abused or not really finding that I'm in gratitude for, right? Like it's so easy to be like, crap, my 2-day shipment didn't come. It came the third day, and and judge that, right? Or and like these are the physical things, but I think kind of getting back to the energy, on the energy and energetic side of things, where we're talking about whether we're setting goals or creating intentions and a new way of being. It, like for me, it's like, if I want to be and show up a different way in the world, and this is more about, again, the spiritual side, and this is the way that I view of sparking this new way of, how am I going to be somebody that I'm inspired by? How can I look in the mirror and be like, wow, like you're doing it. I'm proud of you, right? And I think part of that is like stepping into places of humility, knowing when I have the power, and then knowing that I do have the ability to manifest, whether I want to manifest in physical 2-day shipping, or it's the, you know, this is, I want to be a place where I can continue to be an inspiration for my community and the people that I'm serving, right? And showing up a certain way, and being less about, inner critic judgment, and the person that says I can't do these things. But moving into that, it takes time, right? So I think even when I talk about manifestation, it's not this idea where I'm going to go sit and meditate for, an hour every day, and it's magically going to show up at my doorstep, right? There's going to require steps and actions to take place to go interact in the world, for me to bring that forward. And it takes time. It can take a day, it could take a week, it could take 2 years for something to manifest. And I think that's the one thing I guess I wanted to like ask you, and curious about, because when this whole idea of manifestation comes up, especially in the spiritual talk, it's like this idea, it's like, oh, I can manifest, $1 million in, 3 months. It's like, okay, maybe, yeah, you could. And what if you don't? What if that's still the intention, and it happens in 3 years, or happens in 30 years? I'm just curious, like, what your take on that, when we start to think about the energy side of creating intention and bringing that in from that spiritual side, like where that shows up for you.
Yes. Okay. So, how I had mentioned the whole letting go of money, right? It, as in, like, there's no charge on it for me anymore, because I've really let go of lack. I let go of fear. I let go of like all of that. I released all of that. Okay. So if there's not a charge on money anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
it just flows, right? So coming back to manifestation, it depends on what you're manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
If, for example, and this is my take, see what resonates with you. If, for example, you know, I really wanted some leggings, but I didn't feel like going buy any, honestly. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, I didn't really care about it. It wasn't on the top of my list, but I was like, leggings would be nice. All of a sudden, my friend shows up, like a few days later, gave me a pile of leggings that don't fit her, and they fit me perfectly. The reason why it was so easy to manifest is because I didn't have a charge to it. There was no
Right.
attachment to it.
Yeah.
But then it happens all the time. Things that
Yeah.
we don't have a connection to, like if it comes perfect, if it doesn't come, oh well, we don't
Yeah.
really care. Like we care, but we don't. When
Right.
it comes, those are the things that come like that.
I'm
Yeah, go for it.
I'm laughing because this happened literally yesterday.
You got yoga
So
pants too?
no, not yoga pants, but eggs. I manifested eggs. So people who aren't watching this live and are gonna watch the replay of this, it's beginning of January. There is an egg shortage. There is a problem with getting eggs at the grocery store, right? So we have a roommate. We went and did a Costco order. They, said we don't have any eggs. I went to the store, Natural Grocers. They're completely out of eggs. So we're in the kitchen, literally having a conversation about eggs and how funny this is. And he even has a friend of his who has a farm and can has an abundance of eggs, but all of her eggs are frozen too. And a lot of this is because of the cold spell happening everywhere and all the farms. So it's been, freezing weather and all the eggs are basically, non-usable. So anyway, we're having this conversation. We're like, it's kind of funny, like, man, like we're worried about eggs. So our shipment comes from Costco and we're unloading it. And there's a bag sitting on top of the order from Sprouts. And inside the Sprouts bag are 2 dozen eggs. And we just start laughing, right?
Oh
And we're like, because sometimes people misdeliver the items, and we were thinking, okay, maybe they went to Sprouts for another order, mixed it up, put that bag on top of our order. So we tried reaching out back to the person through the portal on the app, and it was already severed the connection because we wanted to return or let them know, hey, we have these eggs. So we each got a dozen eggs like that, right?
Yeah, like we're manifesting so fast things we don't have attachments to.
Yeah,
But guess what we want to manifest? Things we do have attachments to, because those are the things that we don't have right now that we believe that we need.
yeah,
Therefore, there's an attachment to that.
yeah.
So the whole idea
Mm,
of manifestation and say, I want to manifest $1 million, it does happen, but it
right.
happens more so when we let go.
Yeah.
So putting the intention out there, but then
Hmm.
really feeling like a whole thing. So it actually is close to time. So I'm actually not going to go into that whole process. But
Okay.
yeah, it's with what you were asking about manifestation. Yeah, I do believe it comes like that. But if we have an
Mhm.
attachment to something, it's most likely we're creating a reason why we're not going to receive it.
Yeah.
Because if I need it and
Hmm.
that is fear, that
Or
fear,
lack. Hmm.
yeah, that fear and lack is going to push it away until we release that fear and lack.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's my take on it. Quick take on your side of it.
Yeah. One rabbit hole I wish we could have gone down a little bit more on this is we talked a lot about physical things too, right? I
Mhm.
think I just wonder for other people that are listening and even just for myself, it's, wanting to bring more joy. Like, how do I manifest more joy? How do I manifest more life? These are things that I can't buy with money, right? And so to be able to manifest more of that emotional side, which I think is a time that a lot of people are awakening to, as far as like human consciousness. And okay, if these physical things aren't filling that cup again, then it's joy. And how do I go out and get joy? Like
You
do
don't.
that for free, but figuring out those ways and know how to do that, right?
Exactly. That is
Yeah,
huge. And that's something I've been working on for quite a bit now is
yeah.
you don't go find joy, you
Hmm.
unlock it within yourself
Yeah.
and you practice feeling it in your body, fully feeling it head to toe.
Hmm.
And the more we practice it within our body and we're breaking the old cycle, because we used to suppress joy because we had a belief of suffering and lack and all of that. The
Hmm.
more we allow joy to be in our body and practice it, because we're creating a new habit of consistently having joy, like, most days, and most times in the day, then we're creating that new habit of that. And guess what? We're going to attract it because it's within us, we're going to attract it in the physical.
Yeah.
It's amazing what's happening right now. It really is. Yeah, so it is time, and gosh, we have so much that we could talk about. So I definitely want you back.
I'd love to be back.
Awesome. So Allie says Happy New Year, and then we also got this resonates so much with like head blown.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Allie. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for having me, Lauren. This is great, and very honored to be here to spark not only a new way of being, but to spark this new series that you're offering to your community, and excited to be a part of it and continue to be your friend and grow and expand with you in beautiful ways this next year.
Thank you so much. We're going to chat soon, and would love to have you back decently soon. And everybody else, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Lauren and Dan. I received so much from your conversation. Deepest gratitude for sharing with me. So,
our honor.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you in divine timing. Feel free to post in the comments so I'm going to also tag Dan in it. And he's going to share with me a link. I'm going to put that in the recording also if you want to check him out. He has a lot going on, and feel free to tag him in it if you want something with him. You tag me in it if you have any questions also. And everybody have an amazing rest of your day.
Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.